What are the other causes? I'll just move to the next one. Fatigue, local and central fatigue. I'm talking about, let's say you have a practice one day where you do a lot of stops to start and your quad hurts and your quad's fatigued, but you don't have central fatigue. You got good sleep, you're recovered. So what happens is with that quad being fatigued, it can cause bad co-contractions in that leg, and something else will compensate for it. Now, central fatigue, this is essentially, I'll skip ahead, this is anything that affects the nervous system. Whether you didn't sleep correctly, whether you're an athlete went out and drank and got, let's say, dehydrated in the brain and or along the body. Overhydration can cause the nervous system to be affected, because I've tried it, I've measured the nervous system, and all these things cause bad co-contractions or co-activations. I kind of touched the next one, pain with an ankle sprain. Pain causes a bad co-contraction. Joint dysfunction, when I say that, let's say your hips are off and chiropractors, you need adjustment, which causes tension, let's say down into your hamstring because you have a hip that's tilted. Well, again, it causes a bad co-contraction. Now, this is why I firmly believe that chiropractors are important, and all this stuff has to be accounted for injuries. Now, one thing that may upset people is that heavy training can cause straining in the nervous system, which in my opinion can cause a bad co-contraction, let's say for an athlete running down the field as fast as possible. I'm not talking about for a weightlifter or anybody along those guidelines, but constant heavy training, I've seen it myself, can change the nervous system to be more straining, and I truly believe that that co-contraction is affected, and I've seen it and I've measured it. Now, what I believe then is that high-speed co-contractions can be very effective with some of the methods that I'll show you here briefly. But how do I fix all this? Well, understand that this heavy training is important for all athletes because you got to train tissue, you got to get stronger. But then how I correct it is through high-speed movements. One of the high-speed movements that I do is I'll do it in the Triphasic training peaking manual method, which isn't out yet, but it'll be out soon, somewhere in March of 2019. And then I also use RPR, reflexive performance reset. So for example, here is a method that I use to train this co-contraction. Now what you're seeing here is essentially a band, sorry about that, a band, your hamstrings put in between a band, and high-speed firing of the hamstring, actually, and the quad, because it's a co-contraction, and you're speeding up the contraction. Okay, so let's say this athlete did heavy RDLs and heavy things for his posterior chain. Now what we're doing is I use different exercises to train this, obviously, than just this, but you're training that co-contraction at a very high speed. I'll let it play one more time. You can see how fast that is, how hopefully I'm simulating what the co-contraction is in our athletes. Here's another example. I have multiple examples. This is an oscillatory isometric. This is just a continuous co-contraction with your quad and hamstrings. I often do ones where we kick up and down, and what transpires is we get other co-contractions. I will provide many examples of this in my future videos. Now, the next thing that we have to do is I want you to understand this co-contraction, how important it is, and just understand it in injury. I will post this these slides for you to click on the links, but if you want to search Google, you can find these various compensation patterns, things that I talk about, especially how I fix it with RPR, and along with the training manual.